Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Neo4j Twitch channel. My name is Adam, and today, again, just like last week, we'll be looking at some TypeScript, looking at how we can build applications with Neo4j and TypeScript. So I put this tweet out about an hour ago. I've got absolutely no plan on what I'm going to be doing today. So if anybody in the chat wants to shout out some sort of suggestion as to what we can do, then feel free. Otherwise, I'll sort of make it up as I go along. Cool. So one of the things that I noticed last week when I was going through the real world example, and for anybody that didn't tune in last week, I basically spent last week walking through, well, last couple of weeks really walking through the real world example. So this is like they call it like the mother of all demo apps. But it's basically ThinkSer have created a set of tutorials that build the same UI. So you can basically build the exact same UI in different languages, so you can compare different languages, different frameworks to each other, sort of side by side. So what I did is I built one with Neo4j and TypeScript. So I've issued a pull request, but that's not been merged yet, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd be right here at the bottom. But yeah, so one of the things I was looking at is that in terms of the back ends, I've spent a lot of time looking at TypeScript. I've been looking almost exclusively at Next.js. So basically, what I'm doing really is I'm ignoring the most important framework of them all, and it's the framework that I've used quite often in the past. It was my go-to until I discovered Nest. And that's Express. So Express is the most popular one of the backends in the real world example. So by default you'd be using that with probably with Node.js rather than TypeScript. But I thought what I'd do is I'd give it a go and see where I can get within an hour building an Neo4j application on top of Express with TypeScript as well. So what I'm going to do is today I've been working on importing some data in. So I've actually been looking at importing in the data from our Neo4j user Slack channel. So this is something that's been on my radar for a while. So if you search for Neo4j knowledge graphs, then you should see a blog post that was written a while back. Somewhere. So if I search for Slack knowledge graph, there should be something. Okay, the SEO is not great on that, but basically what we did is a way of onboarding some of the new members of the professional services team. Is we set ourselves a challenge of building an application which basically took the information from the Neo4j Slack channel, the actual internal company Slack channel, and then put that into a graph that we could then query through, and we could gain insights from that data. So basically, on what we're trying to do now is put together an example of a knowledge graph, and basically what we can do is we can take the data from our Slack exports, import that into Neo4j using APOC, and then we can go from there. So in terms of the export, so in order to export, you can go to the Slack app, and then if you go to settings and then workplace settings, so there's this link up here for import and export data. So I did this yesterday. So it takes a while. I think it took about an hour for the Neo4j user Slack to come down. You can see there. So that's the date range I've got there is from the 4th of August 2015 to 24th of August 2020. So I basically chose entire history. And what that does is that then produces like a tar archive, which then has a set of JSON files in there. So like I said, I've already imported this in. So I've got a database here. But so I've stuck inside the import folder, inside this Slack folder here. I've got all of the data. So you get like a a channels.json file, which is here. So it looks a little bit like this. So we have the name of the channel. So in this case, like the random channel, we have when it was created. So that's the second to epoch. We've got the topic and the purpose, and you've also got like an array of members as well. So that's like an array of IDs. Pin messages in there as well, which I've not gone into yet. And then so we have, as well as that, we have like a users JSON. So that's basically just a big long list of all of the users. So here's Michael. So his real name is Michael Hunger. His time zone is Amsterdam, so he's Central European time. And then information about his profile. So his title is Caretaker General of the Neo4j community. So I can show you the example. So if I search now for Michael, so you can see from his profile that he's the Caretaker General of the Neo4j community. So it's all of his images there, so the gravatars, so we can get some pictures of Michael there. So we've got the display name with michael.neo, which is the name that's there. And we have his local time as well, so that must be generated. Cool. And then so we have we go for the users, we go for the channels, and then it basically breaks down all of the data into the different folders. So for the announce channel, these are the messages that are put onto each day. Cool. And then so basically the most important thing about the message is we've got this text, and we've got the user as well, but then the rest of it, there's like types and subtypes. Cool. So I basically imported that in. So this is the script and the steps that I've done. So this is a kind of a messy way of things that I did. So I first installed APOC and I set APOC import.file.unable to be true. So I did that in Neo4j desktop. So before I imported in the data, went to the plugins, clicked install on APOC, which then downloaded the jar file, put it into the plugins folder. So basically put that file there. Then I restarted the database. Realized that you have to have the import and output, import and export settings set. So I had to set that and then restart Neo4j before I could run anything. But then that would allow me to run the apoc.load.json procedure with the URL. So the URL is relative to the import directory by default. So if you wanted to change that, you could change the import here. So that could be, users/adam/desktop if it's on my desktop. But that's like a security thing. Then what I did is inside the import directory, I just pasted the files in there, called it Slack, and then everything is there, so I can access that. So when you call apoc.load.json, you get a single value back. So it's like if there's an array there, it will stream out all of the values one by one. So in the case of channels.json, we have like an array of objects. So one object's representing each channel. In this case, so basically what I did is I merged a channel based on the ID. So in this case, the random one is this CO8. Do some lazy mass assignment there to import the data in and use some destructuring. So the name is general and is archived. It's just taken straight off of the off the application. And then for the things that I need to modify, I then did that. So I take the created seconds and then use that inside the datetime call. So that's the second since epoch, so second since 1st of January 1970. And then just to be lazy, because a lot of things won't really change in here. So the topic and purpose, maybe it's something you could track over time, but for now, I'm not really too worried about that. So I've just taken the values there, not taken anything to do with whether it being set. And then for the creator, I've then just merged a user node on that ID. So the creator here, so I'm guessing that one's Michael. And then merge the created relationship, and then for each one of the members inside the member array, just loop for all of those, merge based on the ID. So based on the string there, and then merge a relationship. So there'll be one relationship from a user to a channel with created, and then there'll be a 0, 1 or more member of. Cool. And so, like to respond to the question, so can the Neo4j streams be added to this application? So I'm guessing you mean streams as in Neo4j streams, the Kafka plugin. Is that right? I mean, give me a shout if that is. I probably won't get around to using it today, but I'm sure we can use it in another lesson. And if you are interested, if you go to my blog, adamcowley.co.uk, there is a so this blog post here, building a real-time UI on top of Neo4j using Vue.js and Kafka. So that will tell you how to set things up. So you can go through and read through that. So it's a very basic implementation. I mean, if there's anything you're interested in, anything above and beyond like the basics, then feel free to reach out, like drop me a message on Twitter or on the user Slack or something like that, and then we can go there. So you can't use it without Kafka. So it's kind of like it sets up Neo4j as like as a source or a sink. So you can push messages out to Kafka, or you can pull messages in from Kafka, basically just using config. So you can't use it without Kafka, unless there's some sort of Kafka equivalent that I don't know of. So yeah, you're kind of stuck. But I mean, that's the kind of premise of the plugin, is that you would use that. So Flutter and stream builders. It's a good question. So actually, if you want to come on the show one week, then you can do. So I kind of want somebody to build. So I've been working through Neoflix. So my Twitch project. So basically, I've got to the point with that application now where well, I can't do anything else for that front end. Like I've done all the Neo4j stuff. So if you want to come on and you can, we can work it out together. We can go through and work out how to build a UI on the front of that. Then shout. So in terms of actual streams itself, I think what I would do and what I have done previously is so basically you've got in this blog post you're going through and you are basically using so Kafka node to add stuff to a queue, and then gets picked up by Neo4j, stored in Neo4j. That information gets passed back to a queue, which is then consumed by the front end, and then the information is pushed out through Socket.io. So if you've got any sort of like WebSockets, you could quite easily stream through to your front end with that. I don't know specifically how the stream builder works, but I mean, yeah, you can do it. I guess you just need like an application layer in between the database and the front end, which is probably a good practice overall. Bear with me for a sec. Yeah, graphical subscriptions. So you could use the Grand Stack, but I don't think that supports subscriptions at the moment. So you have to build your own ones. But yeah, I mean, anything's possible, right? You could build your own GraphQL endpoint with subscriptions on there, and then work out how to do that. It's probably one for Will's session actually. So Will does so Will, my colleague, does a session on I think it was Thursday. So in the schedule, where is he? So graphical and grand stacks, that might be a good one to tune in for if it's in your. I guess it's not in your time zone if you're on the stream. But yeah, I mean, it's something we can look at a later date. It might be interesting to pull everything together. Yeah, cool. So back to the data that we have. So we load in the channels. We then load in the users doing the same thing. So we use the users.json to merge a user based on the ID, and then set the values from there. And then basically just because you've got like this weird sort of nested profile, I had to do this to get that to work. And then I've got like these. So these are called like a for each hacks in Cypher. So it's kind of like an if statement. There's no way to do like a if statement in Cypher at the moment. But what this does is basically says, so we do like the for each command. So it's for each variable in collection, essentially. So this represents like a collection. So if this value is true, then we return an array with one item in there. So it iterates over once, otherwise it iterates over 0 times. In this case, it's just setting an owner label on the user. So I do that for all those things and import all of that data in. So we then basically end up with a model that looks a little bit like this. It's a little bit of a mess at the moment. So all of these labels, so app, user, and then bot, admin, primary, owner, I think it is. So all of these are like subsets of a user, so they kind of make the diagram look a bit messy. So if I remove all of those, then this is kind of our model. So everything revolves around a message. So a message is posted by a user, or can mention a user, or is edited by a user. That message is in a channel. It may also mention a channel. That message may mention a user. That user is based in a time zone, so we know Michael's in Central European time. As a member of a team, that's kind of a useless thing because there's only one team inside the Slack channel. You can react to those messages, and then that reaction uses an emoji. So that's basically the model that we've got there. In terms of importing that in, it's not strictly TypeScript, but it is JavaScript the way that I wrote it. So basically, in the import, I've just got the Neo4j driver, and then I so I've got this big Cypher statement. It accepts two parameters, so the channel, the name of the channel, and then the file. So because these are in this sort of format, so I've got the announce folder, which is a channel, and then I've got the JSON files for each of the individual days. So the channel's based by date. I basically use so FS in Node to loop through that. So it's kind of a bit of a hacky array here, but again, that's like something I wrote in like an hour just to get it in and to get it working. So basically, I use read_sync to read the directory, so the path, which is the path to my Neo4j install, and then the import folder, and then /slack. So read_sync, and then for that, so the read_sync, it returns an array of strings, which is basically what we're calling the channel. So that's like the folder name at the moment. So then I map that to get the channel, get the entire path to the channel as well, because we need to use that later on to read the data out. And then I call alstat sync, which basically gives me the status of a file. And basically, the only reason for that is I use that to work out whether it's a directory or not. So I only care about the directories in the folder. I don't care about, like, for example, users.csv or channels.csv. So I filter that down so it's only the channels. Then use the map function again to get all of the files that are inside that channel. So, for example, for announce, I'd be looking at an array of all of these JSON files, and then run map on all of those, returned by read sync, to basically produce the full path, and then basically strip out the things that Neo4j doesn't need in order to run. So that will give me a file path which is relative to the directory. Then basically return that out. So I've got an array of the files as well. So that'll give me like 2015 08, 2015 08, 04, and then 05, etc. And then basically do a reduce, so they will go sort of line by line. And then for each one of those sort of line by lines, I then basically work out, so take the total length, and then while there's an array inside, while there's at least one value inside that array, it will loop, take the first one off, so splice that out, and then run the cipher query above with those parameters. So I can show you what the output of that looks like. So basically, it's running through these. So each one of those items is something that I've picked from the array there. So the woman who code channel, and then the file is this. And then the cipher query is kind of it's not too complex, I suppose. So I go through, find the channel based on the name, run apoc.load.json to load the file. I had to exclude where there was no user, which kind of frustrating, but yeah, it sort of was what it was. So I find the user based on their ID. So if we get on these up side by side. So this one, so I'm taking the user, so value.user, which would be this guy here, probably Michael, and then merge the message based on the TS. So this is kind of like a weird thing. So it's kind of like the second since epoch, and then I guess that's, I don't know, milliseconds or nanoseconds, but basically it works out that it's the unique identifier for that. So then I set some basic information. So I set the type and the subtype, the text, which would be, for example, how do you like my channel structure? And then for the created at, I then create a date time using the epoch seconds. So I just convert that from what is basically from a string into an integer, so it turns it into a number and basically takes that value there and strip that out. Then create the relationship. So the user then posted the message. The message was posted in the channel C. And then there's some sort of basic some sort of hacks around there to load in whether the data is whether the message is edited. If it's edited, then it will run this bit here. So it finds the user actually edited that. So it's probably the same member that posted it. Same thing for the reactions, if there are any reactions. So the first thing I need to do is so basically go through the array. So in this case, I'm just using the for each, so I don't split things out onto their own rows. So this is an array of objects. So the object is the emoji that was used for the reaction, and then a count, and then an array of the user IDs. So basically, I just go through loop through all of the reactions, and then merge an emoji node based on the reaction name. And then for each one of the IDs inside that users array, so reaction.users, which would be this one here, find the user, merge a reaction. So I create like a unique ID, which would be like an amalgamation of the timestamp of the post, or the ID of the post plus the ID of the user, because the user can only react. Actually, no, so that should be wrong. Actually, so I should have the reaction name as well in there as well. So the user can only react once in a particular way to a particular post. Cool. And then the reaction user reacted with a reaction. That reaction was a reaction to a message, which is that M, and then the type is that emoji. Cool. So what I need to do now I've made that change is I need to delete all of those reactions. So this is what they look like. So that's the ID there, which is now the wrong one. But this is the user Fremo has reacted to this message, and then that message is one cool feature we can have in the channels is emoji system. So that's kind of like a nice circular thing. But yeah, so they have reacted in a +1. No, sorry, they've reacted as stuck out tongue, winking eye, and then heart. Yeah, and a +1. Cool. So what I need to do is delete those. So detach, delete R. And then what I do is I'll just run through and I'll just run that again so everything loads in. So earlier on, this was taking quite a long time. I realized that I didn't have an index on one of the I think it was on the channel the channel name. So it's taken ages, but now it's a lot quicker. But what I'll do while this is running is I'll at some point there's going to be a blog post come in at some point for this, and all the code will be up on GitHub at some point. I don't know how long that'll take to put it up there, but it'll be up there. So you can basically follow the same steps you can import in the data yourselves. But assuming that we've got all of that data in there, so we should have most of the data in there, just not the reactions at the moment. If I take a look, so we've still got some reactions in there. So so Nigel is reacting with the type of beer to a message. So somebody has sent a message. Let's see who that is. So Alberto has sent a message. So this is like a mention. So if it's like a less than and greater than, which surrounds like a at and then something, that's a mention to a user. So that's saying, Nigel, I'll buy you a beer for every message in the wrong channel. It's quite interesting. And then Nigel reacted to that with this reaction, which was the beers emoji. So it could be quite interesting to find that out, find out what's going on there. So let's take an example, see if we can find like one of the latest messages. So return M, order by created at descending order. Let's take a few. So hi everyone, I got this error, neo transient no threads available. So we should be able to find that at some point. So let's see where it was. Let's just take the last one. So cool. So that's the message. So it's posted in help chat. So if I get Slack back, and then we look in help chat. Cool. So we're live. So it's not that up to date, but it should be up to date as of yesterday. Actually, so let's see when that was posted. We got the timestamp on there, so we can see when it was posted. Okay, so it's March. Seems a long time ago. So I guess what we can do is we can search for transient error is probably not said too much. Okay, strange. So it must be like an older, is it an older import that I've used there? Might be actually. So let's just do that again. So this is the latest one. And then basically need to plug it into this folder. Cool, so I don't want that, I want the imports folder. I'll basically remove all of that, because I'm not interested in that at the moment. Cool, and if I paste that in there, rename that to be Slack. So I don't know how much longer this will take. I'm assuming this is a longer import. Just so you've got some context as to why I'm sitting here doing nothing. Right, here we go. So call that Slack. So I can go through and I can just run everything again now. So I can run the import over the top. So I'm using merge statements. So if I merge something based on a message, then it's not going to create the same thing twice. We don't need to worry about that. So the first thing I need to do is I need to run the import. In this one, so if I load in the channels again, so there might be some channels that have been created since. So how long that takes, almost instant. Load in the users, so this one might take a bit longer. It's fine. Cool. So that was the users. What else have I got to run? That's none of that. So I can basically run this again, and then everything will import in again. 2000. Okay, so now we've got some later ones there. So if I run that query again, I should get a later one. Okay, so the 24th of the 8th, 2020 there. Last chance to win the prizes this week. So that was Michael, I think. Yeah. Posted in announce. So if I go to announce, so there it is. So last chance to win the prizes for next week. So 405, which I guess would be 305 in UTC. Yeah, so 303.20 in UTC. So if we can find that one from Lou. So match user display name Lou. So we want to find that she's posted a message return order by m.created at desk limit 2. So what have we got? We've got this one. In a mere 20 minutes, we will be live on Twitter. In a mere 30 minutes, we are back on Twitter. So which one we've got? So 20 minutes, we will be live. So that's that post there. So if I get rid of that for now and expand this one. So we've got, it's posted in announce, which Lou is a member of. It has an attachment. So the attachment, I've not put too much info on that. There's loads of weird stuff in the attachment, so I've not bothered to look at that. But yeah, so we've got like the thumbnail width and height. So it should be this picture, which is that one there. Cool. So it should say Neo4j Twitch. It should be a link to the Twitch Twitch channel. Yeah, and then the description is Neo4j's open source graph database, blah blah blah, which is that bit there. So we've got 4 reactions. So we've got 2 tada and 2 sparkles. So there's the 4 reaction nodes there. So Thomas reacted with sparkles, as did Michael. And then there's the tada, which was Michael and Thomas. Exactly there. So that's the date that we've got. So that's in our graph now, which is pretty cool. So 45 minutes in, I've not done any TypeScript yet or anything. So let's do that. Let's start something. I basically got this folder here. So I've got 2 folders there. But what I'll do is I'll create an API. Cool. So inside here, I'll just do like a TSC init. So I need to store that. So TSC init basically just creates like a TypeScript. It should create a TypeScript. Like a TS config file. That's right. So npm init. So that'll create us our package.json file. And then if I npm I save dev TypeScript, then must be something weird going on with my config. So in node modules and then in bin, there should be TSC. Cool. So TSC init. Cool. So that's created that. So that's the defaults in it at the moment. I'm not going to change those. Save that. Desktop. Cool. So the TS config. So there's a few things in there. We might need to change things as we go. Cool. So this is going to be a Neo4j project. So I'm going to save Neo4j driver. And I also want Express in there as well. I save Express. npm I and then save dev types express. Cool. So if I create an index.ts file, I can import Neo4j from Neo4j driver, and then import express from. Oops. Cool. And then basically, I just want to create like a quick node mon. Server. So I've done this before recently. Cool. And then I want node mon. If I set this up in package.json, I can run it as a the command. So dev, we'll call that nodemon exec ts node source index.ts command dev. Cool. So that that will basically now just watch for changes. If anything changes, then it will reload the API. So basically, we want an instance of the driver. So the driver is new neo4j.driver, neo4j vault, no, localhost 7687. We need some auth in there, so neo4j.auth.basic neo4j. My password is neo. So you can be as explicit with this as you want. Cool. I'll log that out. Cool. So there's a driver there. So I can say session is driver.session, and then session.run n return count n as count, then res console.log res.records. Right, so that should give me a count of the nodes in the database. Cool, so 269,000, which should match up to this number here. Yep, 269,000. Cool, bear with me a second. Nice, cool. So we want to create like an express endpoint to get some data out, basically. So we can create a new app. If I just cover that for now. So const app equals express. And then basically want app.listen on port 3000 because why not? And then we want to say listening on localhost 3000. Cool. And then what we can do actually is we can say const server is app.listen. So that will return like an instance of a server. And then we can then use the port from here. So server.address. So that will give us the address info. So the address, family, and port. Port. And that's all going well. That's weird. It's fine. I mean, we could cast it, but it's fine. So you should get like a cannot get. Yeah, cool. So to create root, we can say app.get, and then that gives us a request and a response. And then so res.send hello world. Cool, hello world. So one of the things that I've done with a few apps so far, and one of the things that I kind of like doing with Neo4j is I like to bind the Neo4j driver, or like a Neo4j instance, to the request object. So then instead of having, I guess what we could do is we could have like a neo4j.ts file, which would then export the Neo4j driver and things like that. And we can include that into each one of the files. But because we've got like these request handlers, I kind of like having like a rec.neo4j, and I could do like a read or write query off of that. So I think I'll do that. So I'll create a neo4j.ts file, and we can take all of this this stuff. We can stick it in there. So when the app initiates, when it starts up, then we'll get this instance of the driver, and then what we can do is we can export an object. So we have, like, for example, a read function and a write function. So there's some boilerplate you need to do when you're creating like an app in or when you're running queries. So when you run a query through the driver or through your program language of your choice. So the first thing you need to do is to create a driver. You then need to create a session. So the driver is the way that you interact with Neo4j. The session is the way in which you interact. So the session would be driver.session. So this has some configuration that goes in with it. So we've got like a default access mode. We've got bookmarks, database, and fetch size. So the important one, or the two important ones, are the default access mode and then the database that we query. So since Neo4j 4.0, we've got multiple databases. So by default, it'll go to the default database, which is the one we're using at the moment, which is this Neo4j. But in theory, if we create a new database, we could query that one as well by passing through the database name as a string, and then the default access mode. So that would either be like read or write. So we would create a session, so that would have a default access mode. May also have a database, and then we would run a query. So a few ways that you can run queries. So you can either use like a auto commit transaction, or you can strange. Or you can create a transaction, or you can run like a just session.run is like an auto commit transaction. So that's kind of what we'll do for now. Like, you're not supposed to do it in production, but everybody does it, so I suppose it's fine. So what we can do is we can use these the exports of this this file to create create a session, run the query, and then shut down the session and return the results. So for that, we'll want cipher, and we'll want parameters as well. So both of these will want a session. So driver.session, and then we'll want to session.run the cipher and the params. Then we'll get the response. So we'll want to return that response. But before we do that, we want to close a session. So it just cleans up the connection pool a little bit. So that'll be a string, and then that will be a record string any. And I guess we'll want as well, we'll want the database there. So database is a string. So the default access mode for this will be read. So it's neo4j.session.read. And then the database, we can just pass that straight through. So we want to copy that down as well. We want the session as well, but then we don't want a read session. In this case, we want a write session. And this isn't, it's not too important for, it's not too important for like a single instance of Neo4j, but when you get into sort of cluster modes, or if you use Neo4j Aura, the Neo4j architecture means that you have one leader and then two followers. So the leader is responsible for taking care of all the writes, and then the followers are basically just like read-only instances of Neo4j that handle your load. You can also add in read replicas for horizontal scaling to make things faster, or to handle more requests at one time, I should say. Cool. So we've now got this. The Neo4j driver will be created every time we include this file in, or for this file being included in. Export the driver just in case we need it. And then what we can do is we can add it through a middleware. So what I can say is I can import Neo4j from Neo4j, and then that'll be an object that has the driver and has the read and the write. And I can say, so app.use. So this is like a request middleware. So it takes, I think, 3 arguments. So request response, and then the next function. And then basically what we want to do is say that rec.neo4j is Neo4j. And then just call the next function. Ignore that for now. Cool. So if I log rec.neo4j and then run a request on the server, it's not working because there's no rec.neo4j. Cool. So against the request now we've got the driver, which is the driver we create, then we've got read and write functions. And then those read and write functions, they basically just take care of the boilerplate for you. So instead of having to create the driver and then create sessions, run the query and then shut the sessions down, which is kind of a kind of headache, we can just use read or write. So I can say in this root handler, request.neo4j dot read match n turn count n as count. So again, the same query. So then I get the response, and then I basically just want to take the count from that. So this query will only return one row. So we can take res.records, take the first one, and then get the count. be a query result. Cool. And then once we've got the count, we could say res.send. Actually, send a JSON object. And then, so we want to convert that to number as well. So from like a Neo4j 64-bit integer into a Neo4j, into JavaScript number. So we can say like status is okay, and then the count is there. Cool, looks good. Cool. So now sending the JSON out, and that's our count that we've got. So I need to find out the best way to do this. If anyone's got any suggestions, then shout. But yeah, we basically want to. Well, we can basically use that to process the results. And to query Neo4j using just rec.neo4j rather than having to do anything complicated. So kind of the nice thing, but also the dangerous thing about Express is that you can be well, I mean, I guess it's an unopinionated framework, so you can be as flexible or as rigid as you want with the rules. Cool, so that's there. For example, we could say app.get channels, and basically what we want to do here is just return like a list of all of the channels that are in the database. So I can copy that down. I guess what would be interesting to return from the channel. So I guess if we're looking at sort of pretending to create this here, I mean, there's not a lot of info there. It's just the just the channel names. But we can be a little bit more interested with that. So we could take the channels. And then we can return, so from C, we can return, for example, the name, purpose, on the ID as well. Cool. And then what we could do as well, so let's see what that gives us. For now, fine. So if we take a look at this channels export, so we've got the name, the creator is archived as general. So there might be some, so we can take a few more things. We can take the topic. And then we can say that the creator is, so if we go from the channel, then we take the user, and then we're just, instead of just returning a node, we can just return some properties. So we can just say ID and then display name. It's also got the members in there, so we can say, like for example, the member count, and then we can say that is the size of the number of relationships. So what do we call that? We called that, so created and then member of. Cool. And then we can get the actual members as well. So we can take the same thing there and we can say members. Member of. And then we'll give that an alias as well, so just so we can pull it off for the result. I come from a JavaScript background, so I always do that. Cool. So we want to take all of that information and then we want to return it ordered by c.name in ascending order. Cool. Okay. So then we have this the result. So again, we kind of don't want to do the same thing. We've got more than one row at the moment. So or this time, so now we can say res.records.map. And then for the row, each one of those rows, we want to use the get function to get channel. And then that will then give us a some JSON that we can return, or let's say channels. And then with that, and then we want to res.json that out. Cool. So if I go to the API and then /channels, and then so I guess there's a lot of channels in there. So we probably want to add some restrictions there. I think what I'll do for now is I'll just remove the members. So it's taken a long time. It's loading again. Cool. So now we've got the ID, the name, the topic. I have a member count there. So that's the Neo4j integer rather than a JavaScript integer at the moment. And then we have a creator there. So the creator, so I guess there's only one, so we can change that. So we can say instead of returning a list, we could just take the first one. And then Michael is then the creator of that channel. So bot test is created by Will. Kareen created the certified training, etc., etc. Cool. And I guess what we could do to fix that is we could say for those channels, we want to return like a modified version of that. So channel. So I want to return all of the information from the channel, and then I just want to convert that member count to be channel.memberCount.toNumber. And that is a integer, which we need to import from Neo4j. Cool, just need to update that now. Cool, so now the member type is an integer. So it seems weird that there are 0 members of announce. Maybe it's something that you can't join. Or no one is a member, so everyone is a member. So I guess there's 11,000 of them there. Cool. So it's now 1/4 so I've gone 40 minutes over what I should have done. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of like the basics. You can get up and running quite quickly if you need to. But yeah, I guess if there's any comments, any questions, if there's anything you want to see next week, I guess is the most important thing. Like, just feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. My name is Adam Cowley on Twitter. So yeah, feel free to drop me a message there or the Neo4j Slack channel. So on the Neo4j Slack channel. I am Adam Cowley. So yeah, feel free to reach out there as well. Neo4j community forum, wherever, and let me know what you want to see, because I kind of want to build things that people are interested in. So we've got Neo4j streams. That's a nice suggestion today. So we might have a look at how we can do that, or how we can integrate with like a Flutter stream. I don't quite know how you do that, but I'm sure we can work out between us. But yeah, I mean, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week for the next session. Take care. Speak soon.